Good morning. This is Dr. T.P. Meigandan, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. I am going to discuss about the subject titled Design of Concrete Structures with subject code U18PECE026. This design of concrete structures deals with the design of special structures. Specifically, when we deal with the design of any concrete element, basically it starts with the design of foundation and your design of beams, design of columns, design of slab, all those things. When, as I say, it is some special structures, it can be enlisted as your retaining wall and water storage tanks, about bridges, and further we can discuss about the pre-stressed concrete. So this subject is specifically dealing with the design of special structures. So in the unit 1, it is on design of retaining wall. Basically, we have to discuss about the retaining wall. So to start with unit 1, we'll go with the retaining walls topic. What is retaining wall? Actually, the retaining walls are built to hold back soil mass. We might have come across these structures everywhere. Physically, we can able to see. So this retaining walls can also be constructed for aesthetic purposes, landscaping, when we are dealing with the landscaping, to improve the aesthetical performance of any area. There we can go with the retaining walls. When we construct these retaining walls to store the soil mass, the wall has to be strong enough to sustain the soil mass or the forces due to the soil mass. As we all know, the soil mass will exert active earth pressure on the wall which is constructed. That earth pressure has to be sustained by the wall which we construct to retain the soil mass. In that context, we have got some classifications on the retaining walls. So the very first classification is gravity type wall or gravity retaining wall, we can say. This gravity retaining wall, by the name, it says it is acting due to its gravitational force or its self weight. The massiveness of the wall is going to take care of the active earth pressure which is exerted on the wall. Because we say the self weight is going to take up this stress or the pressure, it has to be massive in size. So The gravity type retaining wall can be constructed by stone masonry or brick masonry or even with plain cement concrete. There is no reinforced cement concrete, whereas it can be made up of plain cement concrete. When we have a massive structure, because of this self weight of the structure, it is going to sustain the earth pressure exerted on that wall. And very next type, we name it as cantilever type retaining wall. In this cantilever type or cantilever retaining wall has been named because the retaining walls parts, or I can say the different parts of the retaining wall, is going to behave as a cantilever slab. So the name of the retaining wall has been titled as cantilever retaining wall. When I say parts of the retaining wall, it is nothing but the vertical wall, upright wall is termed as stem of the retaining wall. And the horizontal slab, which is going to take the upright wall on it is termed as base slab. So the base slab has to be laid beneath the ground level as foundation, and from that foundation your upright wall has to be constructed. So in this base slab, further we can name as heel slab and toe slab, as it is behaving as a foot of the upright wall. You can have heel slab and toe slab. The heel part and toe part, and so also the upright stem wall individually is going to behave as cantilever slab because of the pressure exerted by the soil mass. It is going to be designed as cantilever type retaining wall. And we have inverted T shape and so also L shaped wall for the cantilever type of retaining wall. Next comes the counterfort retaining wall, which is also made up of RCC. And these counterfort retaining walls are further developed or further improvement in the type of cantilever retaining wall. For the upright wall, when it is vertically standing, if I am giving additional support like tapered wall or battered wall at intermittent distances throughout the length of the retaining wall, then it is said to be counterfort retaining wall, and the supports which I give intermittently are termed as counterforts. So the counterforts are going to give additional stability to the vertical upright wall or the stem part of the retaining wall. So the final type of or final classification of the uh, retaining wall is nothing but your buttress retaining wall or buttress wall. Schematically or diagrammatically, you can see how the classified retaining walls will look like. The gravity retaining wall, as we were mentioning, it is a massive structure and which will be suitable to a maximum height of 3 meter, not more than 3 meter, because as we all know, when we go on construct a massive structure beyond 3 meter, again the section size has to be increased so that it can sustain the soil mass which is uh, supported by the wall. So we restrict the gravity type retaining wall up to a height of 3 meter, and the inverted T-shaped cantilever and L-shaped cantilever type of retaining walls we are seeing. There are two L, one is reverse L and the natural L also, and inverted T shape. As we discussed, we have got counterfort wherein we have the intermittent supports with inclined walls, that is going to be the counterfort, and the buttress wall also have to be the same kind, but the support is restricted to a certain height. Okay, these photos also show what is a retaining wall. Simple, the culvert which is going to support the soil mass of the road, and this wall is also a gravity type retaining wall. The height is restricted, as we were mentioning. It can be up to only 3 meter, not more than that. This is made up of a stone masonry, we can able to see, and the soil mass will exert pressure over this, but the gravity type retaining wall will last long due to its self weight and the massiveness of the uh, retaining wall. The next kind of retaining wall, as we were mentioning, it is a cantilever type, and it can be above 3 meter to 6 meter height. You can have this, and this is maintained by the weight of the retaining wall and weight of the earth on the heel slab. As we were mentioning, we have got the base slab with toe and your heel. This is what in the diagram you can see. This part is heel, wherein the backfill is resting over the heel slab, and this, after the vertical upright stem, you have toe. This toe will be having slight soil mass above the toe slab. So your heel is going to rest or take the backfill weight. And counterforts we have seen with the intermittent inclined wall to support the upright wall, and these counterforts we can go up to a height of 8 meters. And we are very much focused on our earth pressure, because this soil mass, whatever type of soil mass or whatever classification of soil mass, the mass is going to exert the pressure. From the diagram we can able to see the pressure will act at 1/3 height of the wall, and the active earth pressure denoted by P suffix A. We have got passive earth pressure. Whatever active earth pressure is acting, there will be opposite force, that is termed as your passive earth pressure, that will be in action coming. We need not apply this passive force, rather because of the application of the active force, or because of the storage of the soil mass, which will exert active earth pressure, to counteract that active earth pressure, there formed the passive pressure opposite to the active earth pressure, because of the friction between the base slab of the retaining wall and the soil mass or the mass below the base slab. So this active earth pressure, we are very much interested to know what intensity of the pressure is, and how to analyze such kind of our earth pressure. When we say it is our active pressure, it is nothing but the coefficient of active earth pressure, K suffix A, multiplied by the density of the soil and your height of the soil mass above the pressure line, h square Ka gamma h square by 2 is going to be our pressure. And when we talk about the moment at the bottom or at the junction of the vertical wall and the base slab, we have to find out that will be, as we were mentioning, it will be 1/3 from the bottom. So Ka gamma h square by 2 multiplied by 1/3 of h. So it gives the moment as K suffix A gamma h cube by 6, wherein K suffix A, as we have already mentioned, as the coefficient of active earth pressure. So we can find out this moment, and for this moment we have to design the section for the retaining wall. To sustain this moment, we have to design the retaining wall. As we have already seen, K suffix A is nothing but the coefficient of active earth pressure, which is going to have the value of 1 minus sine pi divided by 1 plus sine pi. This is the pi is angle of internal friction or angle of repose. Each and every kind of soil will be having its own pi value. And unit weight, we all know it is denoted by gamma, that is density or unit weight. And when we have the pi value as 30 degrees, naturally the coefficient of active earth pressure value becomes 1 by 3. And the K suffix P value, it is nothing but the coefficient of passive earth pressure. The coefficient of passive earth pressure will be just opposite to the coefficient of active earth pressure. So it is Ka is 1 by 3 and K suffix P naturally will be equal to 3. And to design, before getting into the design, we must be knowing what the conditions or what are the stability conditions for the retaining wall to be taken into account as per the codal provisions in the IS 456. So the retaining wall should never overturn, and the retaining wall should not slide, and it should not subside. That is, maximum pressure at the toe should not exceed the safe bearing capacity of the soil. That is the idea, when it should not subside, we say. So three conditions: it should not overturn in the sense the upright wall or the stem should not just overturn, and as the entire mass or as the entire wall should not move, that is sliding. Here the figure shows what is overturning, how it can happen. When the soil mass is exerting pressure, because of that pressure, the overturning moment M suffix O should not overturn the wall. For that, we should have the stabilizing moment or restoring moment is greater than the overturning moment. Greater than in the sense it is denoted as 1.55 times, it has to be more. Then naturally it will not overturn. That is the condition. So as per IS 456 2000, MR should be greater than 1.2 times the overturning moment. That M suffix R, as we have mentioned already, as our restoring moment. and it is dead load plus 1.4 times m suffix o. Next, the condition is it should not slide. Slide in the sense the wall as a whole should not just slide. To make that it is not sliding, we have to maximum see about the frictional force between the soil mass and the base slab. As we all know, the frictional force coefficient or coefficient of friction is denoted by mu. And when we talk about the factor of safety against sliding, it has to be the resisting force to sliding divided by horizontal force which is causing the sliding. We specifically know the horizontal force which is causing the sliding is P suffix A, that is active pressure. And our resisting force is the weight of the retaining wall multiplied by your coefficient of friction, mu. So mu multiplied by summation of the weight divided by P suffix A. P suffix A is the force which is causing the horizontal movement. So it should be equal to or greater than 1.55. Again, here also the condition is the resisting force should be greater than the force which is causing the movement or sliding. So as per IS 456 2000, the mu multiplied by 0.9 summation W divided by P suffix A is equal to 1.4. And suppose if it is sliding, that means it is not safe against sliding, or I can say it is unsafe against sliding. In that case, what should be done? How we can increase or improve the frictional force? For that, we have to give the additional opposite force or additional resisting force by providing one protrusion beneath the base slab, that is termed as your shear key. By that provision of this protrusion of the shear key, that gives additional stability against sliding. It improves, in addition to mu into summation W, you have got additional force, that is P suffix P, that is passive pressure, that gives added value on the numerator, that is mu into summation W plus P suffix P, that adds on the numerator, in turn gives value more than 1.55. In turn, we get that additional resistive force, and it can overcome the force which is causing the horizontal movement. The pressure, as we were discussing, when you are storing soil mass on the heel slab, naturally it will be acting downward. Because of the downward pressure, massive downward pressure, naturally there will be opposite upward pressure from the bottom of the base slab, or we can say the earth mass beneath the base slab exerts the reaction in the form of pressure towards upward. So when we try to draw the pressure diagram, it is minimum at the area heel and maximum at the area of toe, or at the end of the toe, the upward pressure will be maximum, and in the edge of the heel slab, it is going to be minimum, because the resultant you can see the resultant due to this self weight of the soil mass and the pressure exerted, the resultant is acting at this point, and you can find out the eccentricity. By finding out that eccentricity, we can find out this maximum and minimum stress or upward pressure. So that is what calculated by using this. We know the eccentricity should be equal to b by 2 minus x, and which should be less than b by 6. B by 6 is B is the base slab width, and your X distance in the drawing we can able to see. And the minimum pressure at the heel part is summation W divided by B multiplied by 1 minus 6E by B, which will be greater than 0, which has to be greater than 0. And the P max will be equal to summation W divided by B 1 plus 6E divided by B. So the symbol 1 minus 6E by B there. Here, to get the maximum, it has to be 1 plus 6E by B. Naturally, the pressure, maximum pressure at the toe, which will be, which has to be less than the safe bearing capacity of the soil mass, then naturally it will not slide. To start with our design, we can have number of steps. As we all know, the design in the sense, we have to find out the maximum bending moment, and to sustain that bending moment, we have to decide the section size of the concrete. And again, in that, it is reinforced cement concrete. So we have to specify what is the reinforcement to be used and what diameter and what are the spacing required for the diameter. So in that design, we have to first of all proportion the retaining wall or denote the dimensions of the retaining wall. As the vertical upright wall is termed as a stem, the stem should have top width minimum 150 you can take, but for stability sake, we can have 200 mm to 400 mm. The base slab width B can be 0.4h to 0.6h. For surcharged wall, if you have more soil mass above the backfill, then it can be 0.6h to 0.75h, where h is nothing but the overall height of the retaining wall. And coming to the base slab thickness, it can be h by 10 to h by 14. Once we know the overall height of the retaining wall, we can arrive at the base slab width, the base slab thickness. And the once the base slab width is known, the toe projection can be 1/3 or 1/4 of the base slab. We can suitably assume that either 1/3 of the base slab or 1/4 of the base slab can be taken. And coming to our design, as we were well known that the elements separately as stem, toe, and heel all are acting as cantilever slabs. So we have to design the cantilever slabs. And we start with an example of cantilever retaining wall design. Design a cantilever retaining wall T-type to retain earth for a height of 4 meter. The backfill is horizontal. The density of the soil is 18 kilonewton per meter cube. Safe bearing capacity of the soil is given as 200 kilonewton per meter square. Take the coefficient of friction between concrete and soil as 0.6. The angle of repose is 30 degrees. Use M20 concrete and Fe415 steel. These are all the data given to design the cantilever type retaining wall. In this, we can able to see above the ground level, the retaining wall required to withstand for a soil mass of 4-meter height. And the backfill has got no surcharge. That is what mentioned as horizontal. And the density of the soil given 18 kilonewton per cubic meter. And safe bearing capacity of the soil is also given. Angle of repose 30 degrees given. So the data we can mark, and we can start proportioning after we find out the minimum depth of foundation. First dimension, we have to find out the minimum depth of foundation, which is denoted by d suffix f. D suffix f can be found out by using this Rankine's formula: safe bearing capacity divided by density multiplied by 1 minus sine pi divided by 1 plus sine pi whole square. So using this Rankine's formula, we can find out the minimum depth of foundation. If we find out the minimum depth of foundation, above the foundation or above the ground level, we have got 4 meters soil to be retained. So if you add both depth of foundation plus the height above ground level, we get the overall height h as 5.2 meters. Next, we can proportion the retaining wall by giving the sizes for the stem, base slab, everything. So we start with thickness of the base slab. As we all know, it can be 1/10 to 1/14 of h. So we can go with either 0.52 meter or 0.43 meter. Safer side, via media, we can take 0.45 meter, that is equal to 450 mm thickness for the base slab. Next, width of the base slab, B, it can be 0.4h to 0.6h or 0.5 to 0.6h. 0.5 to 0.6h, if you find out, it is 2.6 meter to 3.12 meter. We can again suitably take or adopt 3 meter as the width of the base slab. Toe projection can be 1/3 to 1/4 of our base slab width. So it can be 0.75 or 1 meter. So we can safely take 0.75 meter as our toe projection. And thickness of the base slab 450 mm, we can take the stem at the bottom as 450 mm. Both can be equally proportioned. So as for the dimensions as a whole, we have given for all the elements, that is stem we have decided, the heel we have decided, and what is the toe projection also we have done. Now we'll start with the next step as design of stem. To design the stem, we have to first of all know what is the pressure acting on the stem part, or what are the loads acting on the stem part, and because of the loads, what are the moments coming over it, and which is going to be the maximum bending moment, and the maximum bending moment is going to act at what area or which juncture the maximum bending moment is going to occur. According to the uh, element, we can able to see it is the vertical stem is joined with the base slab. That junction, we have to find out the maximum bending moment, because the pressure diagram also varies from 0 to maximum at the junction. And we know the P suffix A is the pressure, or P suffix H, whatever denotation we can say. It is half into one third is nothing but our Ka into 18 is our density. 4.75 is the height of the stem. So 4.5 square. So from this, we can find out our moment. Moment, we know it has to be multiplied by one third of height. So one third h by 3 we can take. So if I find out the bending moment is 107.1 kilonewton meter. So after finding out the bending moment, we have to find out the ultimate moment. Ultimate moment, just we multiply the moment by 1.5, that is the factor. So you get the ultimate bending moment. Once the ultimate bending moment is known, we can say it is under reinforced, and you can find out the mu by bd square. Using that relation, we can solve, and we have given the 450 as the bottom width. In that, we have to deduct the effective cover, so that we get the effective depth of the stem at the bottom. And steel, area of steel, we can use 0.87 FYASTD into 1 minus that basic formula also, or we can go with the percentage steel, any method to find out the area of steel. Once the area of steel is known, we just assume some diameter of the steel, and we can find out the spacing of the reinforcement to be provided in the stem. We can see the stem is designed as the cantilever type. So your main bar has to be in the tensile zone. So that is nothing but just the zone uh, near to the soil mass. The face which is away from the soil mass is subjected to compressive force. So the main bar is placed near to the soil mass surface. And when we talk about curtailment of reinforcement, we all know logically the from the top to bottom, the pressure goes on varying from 0 to maximum. So towards the top, our pressure is going to be going on reducing, and it is at the top it is just 0. So we don't require much reinforcement towards the top. So what do? We have to do 50% curtailment towards the top. So at a particular height, we can restrict our reinforcements, and above that, intermittently or alternatively, we can curtail the reinforcement towards the top. So that is as far as curtailment of the uh, bar is concerned. Once we decided the main bar is denoted by the black color, and we have to go with the secondary steel for the next phase of the retaining wall, that is the stem. So for that stem, we can provide 0.12% of the gross cross sectional area, that is the minimal requirement as per the IS 456. So for the secondary steel, if I go with gross cross sectional area, it is B into capital D. B is 1000 mm we can take, and capital D is 450 mm. 0.12%. So 0.12 divided by 100 into 450 into 1000. That gives an area of 540 square mm. So if it is 540 square mm, we assume some suitable diameter, the secondary reinforcement can be 10 mm bar at 140 mm center to center. So it can be decided as the secondary reinforcement with 10 mm diameter. Same way, once we have decided main reinforcement, secondary reinforcement, and we have to now decide the distribution steel also. That distribution, again, we can go with 0.12% of our gross cross-sectional area. The uh, stem has to be checked for your shear force, whether it is able to withstand the shear. We all know you have to calculate the shear force Bu by Bd, and according to IS 456, page number 73, table number 19 gives you maximum permissible shear stress, tau C, by using that 100 AST by BD in that percentage. For that, we can find out tau C value. For that tau C value, we have to compare with the calculated shear force. So shear stress, that calculated shear stress should be less than the permissible or permitted shear stress given by the codal provision. Once if it is satisfying, then it is safe against shear. The very next step in the design, we have to check whether it is stable. To know the stability, what do? We do take the stem part. That stem part, as we all know, is vertical towards the face near to the soil mass, whereas it is battered on the outer side, because on top the width is 200 mm and towards the bottom it is 450 mm. So it is battering like. So in that case, we divide the stem into a rectangular part and a triangular part. So weight 1 denotes the rectangular part of the stem. Weight 2 denotes the triangular part of the stem. And we have got weight 3 is the weight of the base slab, and backfill weight or the soil mass weight is W4. So all these weight we have to calculate. How to calculate that? You know the section size. 4.75 is the height of the stem, and thickness we know 0.2, and 1 meter long we have to assume. 25 is the density of the concrete, and when you multiply you get the weight, and you have to take moment about a point A, that is the end of or edge of the heel slab, and you can take the weight multiplied by the distance towards the edge of the heel slab, and you can find out the bending moment. So once the bending moment is found out, that is the end. And for the portion triangular, you can again same way we can find out half into base into height multiplied by the length of the stem, that is 1 meter, and you can multiply by density, find out the weight. So it is, you can take the weight of the triangular part of the stem, and we can find out the distance again from edge of the heel slab, and you can multiply bending moment, you can find out. For the base slab also we can find out, and similarly for the weight of the backfill, for that what is the moment. So you find out the summation of the weight and summation of the resisting moment. And what is the overturning moment? That we are already known by the horizontal force. So whatever overturning moment is coming, that we can find out. So comparing these two, we can arrive at the stability, and so also we can find out the eccentricity, and we can know the P max at toe area and P minimum at the heel area. Once you find out the upward pressure beneath heel and beneath toe, we can go with the design of heel slab and design of toe slab. In the same way, we can have the different weights. What is the soil mass which is lying over the heel slab, and what is the self weight of the heel slab, and the distance to which it is acting. For that, if you find out, you get the bending moment. Once we get the bending moment, the upward pressure because of the soil mass beneath, that also we have to take into account. You have got downward movement, you have got upward movement. You find out the net movement. For that movement, we have to arrive at the area of steel for the heel slab. So for this bending moment, we can arrive at the reinforcement and subsequently the spacing for this. Same way, we can go with the design of toe slab. In this toe slab, again you can go with your magnitude of the toe slab. It is the self height of the toe slab, and what is your upward pressure due to the soil pressure from bottom. That also we can find out. You got a trapezoidal pressure diagram. So we have got rectangular part and a triangular part. We can find out the net moment again. For this moment, we find out the ultimate moment. For that moment, we can arrive at our area of steel. Further, we can assume some suitable diameter of the rod. So toe slab can also be designed similarly in the fashion of your heel slab. Once we complete this, we have to draw the detailing. From this longitudinal section, we can able to see the black line is alternately cut at a certain height for the stem wall. That is the curtailment, as we were telling, 50% is curtailed. And the rest of the things, detailing, we have to do by giving clear notification about the diameter of the rod as well as the spacing of the rod. Once this detailed drawing is given, the execution of this at the site is very, very easy, and it is the layman can easily complete the work by going through the drawing. He can easily execute the detailed reinforcement details. And other part, base slab also, you can give what is the plan of the base slab and what is the section of the base slab. So as far as cantilever type retaining wall is concerned, the design is complete with this. Thank you.